In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear brake center flex hose on this Chevy Silverado. This will be located under the rear of your vehicle. Let's get into it. A quick note, when doing this flex hose, you don't necessarily have to remove the rear wheels, but you do have to bleed the brakes in the end. It's easier with the wheels out of the way. That's the way we'll do this. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing you need to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, let's continue on to removing our center cover using a 22mm socket. Quick inspection of that, set it aside. With that out of the way, let's continue on with our 22mm socket. Now we're removing each of our 6 lug nuts and then the wheel. A quick inspection of each of your lug nuts, replace them as necessary. Let's have a look at our caliper. Along the back side of the caliper is where you're going to find a 10mm headed bleeder screw. If there's a cover, go ahead and remove that now. Once you've done so, continue on with a collection bucket under the area. Use a 10mm to open up your bleeder screw. Wait until you see a steady trickle of fluid coming out. Now at this point, let's make our way towards that passenger compartment. Go ahead and press down on that brake pedal all the way down to the floor. Hold it there with something such as a pry bar. You can rest that pry bar up against the seat if necessary. Now you can close off that bleeder screw. What you probably noticed is while you were pressing the pedal, fluid came out into that collection bucket. Now that we have this bleeder screw broken free, let's go over to the other side of the vehicle and do the exact same thing. Now that we have the bleeder screw closed off, let's follow the brake line towards where it connects onto the center rear brake hose. This is pretty much a junction point here. You'll find that you have 2 lines leading to the hose, the one from the driver's side and the one from the passenger side. I've used some penetrant here. We'll use a 14mm. You can also use a 9/16 wrench if you need to. Just try to squeeze it on there. We'll turn these counterclockwise to remove the line. There we go. A quick inspection of the line and the fitting. Do the exact same thing to the other line. Once again, a quick inspection here, we'll set those lines aside. With both of those lines removed, looking directly in the center of the rear flex hose here, you're going to find that you have a T40 Torx head screw holding the flex hose down to the rear differential. Let's remove that screw, give it a quick inspection, and set it aside. Torx heads look like a little star pattern like that. Let's take this over to the wire wheel or wire brush, give it a good cleaning, make sure it's not rotted and it is still reusable. Now you can dislodge the rear flex hose from the differential. A quick inspection along the top of the differential here at the mounting point, and then you can follow the flex hose up to where its next connection point is. Use some penetrant up here. Now in this area, you want to be careful turning that fitting. It's common to have a rusted line. Careful not to break that line. If it looks like it's rotted and weak, it's a good idea to go ahead and replace it. A quick inspection of that line as always. Let's set this aside, making sure that no debris can make its way inside of that brake line. Now continue on to removing the flex hose from the bracket. For this, you're going to find that you have a locking clip holding it in place. Use a small prying device. You could also use an angled pick if you need to. Go ahead and pull that out of place, a quick inspection, and set it aside. Quick inspection, set it aside. At this point, you should be able to take hold of the flex hose, give it a little wiggle from that bracket, possibly a light tap with a hammer, and remove it from the vehicle. There it is, friend. Let's clean the bracket and inspect the line. Let's use a wire brush for this. Once again, we're being careful not to get anything inside that brake line. We don't want any contaminants. Okay, friend, let's get ready for the installation of our brand new center rear flex hose. Have a look at the end that goes up at the highest point near that steel line. We want to pay attention to the orientation of this. Looking at the line itself, you're going to find that you have two orienting tabs. And if you were to look at the bracket itself, you'll find that you have two slots, one larger than the other. Let's get this flex hose into position. While we're bringing it up, we're going to start the line in by hand. This is easiest to do while that hose is still loose. There we are. Now that we have that started in, we can continue on with our locking clip. Make sure you're pressing that brake hose into the bracket as far as possible. Lock it in with your clip here. Let's tighten the line. Now that we got it bottomed out, just make sure that's nice and snug. Let's follow the flex hose down to the differential now. Now, as we bring the flex hose down into position, let's make sure we have it in the proper orientation. We want to make sure that we have it so that each of those lines are facing towards the side. We have the flex hose coming down towards the front of the vehicle, making its way from the front of the differential towards the rear. Start in your T40 Torx bolt and snug it up. Okay, right there is bottomed out. Take hold of the flex hose, make sure it's completely secured along the bottom and of course along the top. One last time here. Now it's time to get our lines back in place. You can start with whichever line's best for you. Just go ahead and slide it into place and make sure you start in those fittings by hand so you're sure you are not cross-threading them into the wrong position. Okay, right there is bottomed out. Let's make sure it's snug. If you can move the line in and out inside the fitting, that means the fitting's not tight enough. This is common if your fittings are still rusted. Same thing for the other side here. There's snug. Under the hood along the driver's side is where you're going to find your brake fluid master cylinder. This houses the brake fluid which will lead down through the system. Make sure you clean the area up along where the cap is. You don't want any dirt or debris making its way inside the braking system. We'll open this cap by turning it counterclockwise. A quick inspection, it tells you exactly what type of fluid to use, and on the back side you will have a seal. Make sure it's soft and pliable, not torn, worn, or damaged. This one looks fine, set it aside. Continue on to topping off the brake fluid in this port with .3 or .4 brake fluid. When you're doing so, pay attention along the side. This is where you're going to find that you have a maximum line. We're going to go only up to the maximum line, not all the way up to the top of the port. Once that's full, go ahead and reinstall your cap. Double check to make sure that's secure. Let's make our way over towards the passenger side here. We have our 10mm wrench and our collection bucket under the area. Open up the bleeder screw and allow the brake fluid to gravity bleed down through the system, making its way from the master cylinder all the way down to the bleeder screw leading to that catch pan. We're waiting to see a steady trickle of fluid coming out of here. The less air, the better. Once we have a steady trickle of fluid coming out, go ahead and close this side and make your way over towards the driver's side. We'll do the exact same thing. After a quick gravity bleed, we'll continue on with a manual bleed. Okay, let's go ahead and close this off and make our way over towards the driver's side. Like I said, repeating this process. Let's close this off. Now that we finished gravity bleeding the other side, let's make our way back to the passenger side. It's time for a manual bleed. This is going to be easiest with a second person. We'll have the second person inside of the vehicle prepare to pump up the brake pedal. They're going to pump it approximately 3 times and hold that pedal. While they're holding that, they'll let me know, and I'm going to open up the bleeder screw. We're watching to see a steady trickle of fluid coming out of here with no air bubbles. If you see even one air bubble, continue the process until you see a steady trickle of fluid. Let's make sure we have a collection bucket under here. Make sure the brake fluid's full, and go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Pump. 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 Okay, that time I saw no air coming from the system. Let's do it one last time. Go ahead and pump the brake pedal. Okay, you can release the brake pedal. At this point, I saw that I had no air coming out of the system 2 times in a row. I feel confident there's no air inside this side of the vehicle's brake line. Let's clean this up and make our way over to the other side of the vehicle to repeat the process. Okay, go ahead and pump up the brake pedal.
Holding.
Pump. Pump.
Holding.
Okay, you can release. As you saw, I had several times with no air coming out of my system. This side looks good as well. Let's go ahead and make sure we're nice and tight and clean up our mess. Let's clean our mess on that center flex hose. Make sure this is nice and dry. Follow the flex hose up to its next mounting point. We'll clean that area as well. Once you have this area cleaned down, make sure you have the person inside the vehicle hold that brake pedal nice and firm. We're confirming we have no leaks. At this point, we can reinstall our wheel. Go ahead and slide it into place. Start on all 6 of your 22mm lug nuts and bottom them out. Let's get the wheel up on here. With the wheel safely on the ground, let's torque these to 140 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a center cover, go ahead and install that now. Looking at the center cover, you'll find that you have 6 little caps. Each one of those caps fits over a lug nut. Go ahead and start them on and snug them up by hand. You should not use an impact tool for this because you could damage the caps. Now that we have this side of the vehicle torqued, go over to the other side of the vehicle and do the exact same thing. After that, make your way up under the hood and double check your brake fluid. If it's low, top it off with .3 brake fluid. Aside from that, hop in the passenger compartment and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.